Okay, first of all, we're in the earnings seasons. I think we're gradually wrapping up the half-year earnings season for the banks. Today we saw Intercontinental Bank release results, and in line with what we've seen for most banks, we've seen gross earnings come down, but profits are higher. I don't think that was much of a surprise, but just your general thoughts on those numbers.
I think the numbers are in line with what we've seen from a lot of the banks, especially the rescued banks, in the sense that gross earnings have gone down. Intercontinental gross earnings went down from about 80 billion to about 40 odd billion, which is a big drop. But when you turn to profitability, and it's really because of provisions. There are less provisions, and probably some write-backs is what against a profitable position. I think the key thing is when more detail on the results are released, you'll see what their operating income and operating expenses are, because that's the key factor at the moment. Because see whether their operating income is enough to cover their operating expenses, then we know they're back on the sound footing.
Right, but of course, obviously, Intercontinental Bank is one of the rescued banks, and I think it's probably the worst hit because its shareholders' funds are a negative of 370 billion naira, and in the light of what has happened with AMCON, and I think obviously with the issues with regards to funding AMCON and the possibility that some of these banks will not be rescued, what do you think is the outlook for Intercontinental Bank?
I think it's a Continental Bank because of its size, the number of deposits it holds, because I think it has one of the largest deposit base for most of the rescued banks. Will be one of the banks that CBN and the government will ensure something is done. If we can't find a viable local investor, they'll find a way to make it survive. I don't think it's in trouble for that. I think we still wait to be seen how AMCON will be funded, whether they're able to going to get enough funding to be able to cover, do what everyone expects them to do. Especially when you look in light of the announcement that the INEC 88 billion is going to be funded by government bonds as well. You're looking at a position where the government is using an awful lot of debt to pay for a lot of things, and AMCON is looking for up to 1.5 to 2 trillion naira. Right. And is it going to be able to do that? That's the question.
I mean, in the context of Nigerian budget, that's quite a bit of money. But let's now talk about the general market now. Like I mentioned earlier, the market is down for the last 3 sessions, and however, I thought that some positive developments have come to play here. AMCON is on board. We know, yes, there's still some question mark on how it's going to work, but it's still a positive development, and we saw the market react to that initially. And we also have, obviously, the intervention in the Nigerian Stock Exchange by the Securities and Exchange Commission. That has always been seen as a positive, but the market continues to come down. Is there something else that the market is looking for that we're not seeing?
I think in reality, what we're saying is that there's lack of medium to long-term confidence in the market. So what you're seeing is they oscillating between slight rise over a few days, then people take profit and come down because they haven't got confidence in medium to long term, so they want to keep their money there. I also think apart from the uncertainties about AMCON and the issues about the changes in the NSE, which is the interim administrator, I think we also have to look at 2 other things that probably have an effect. One is the Central Bank of Nigeria deadline to the banks that by end of September, they have to have their margin loan facilities up not more than 10% of the portfolio. So that encourages them, because a lot of them are well above that. And so they have to sell down between now and then to get within that. So we'll probably see some sell pressures on the banks in that sense. I also think there's some evidence to show that international portfolio investors are coming back into the market. There's been a lot of buzz about Nigeria being the next, joining the BRICS, becoming the next emerging frontier market that everyone should pile their money into. And we're seeing liquidity increase in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But in respect of that, what we're seeing is that the local investors haven't shared their confidence. So as the portfolio investors are coming in and buying up the shares, local investors are using the opportunity to sell. And until we have the local investors having the same confidence as is going back to the international investors, I think we're going to continue to see what we're seeing.
Okay, but the big question I think I'm asking again is, what else needs to be done to really prop up confidence? Or is it really more of a wait and see to see how, for instance, the SEC's intervention in the NSE will play out? Or what else is the market looking for?
I think what the market is looking for is follow through. We've seen AMCON, the law has been passed 6 months later than CBN wanted it to be passed.
Right,
but it's been
there
passed.
was some delay there.
There's no structure has been put in place yet. The head has not been appointed. And now they're actually going to fund the money has not been put in place yet. So there are question marks there. The SEC intervention, widely applauded by many in the NSE. But right now you have an interim management and interim head of the council. The process of finding a new director general is still in play, and new EDs for the new structure they want to put into the NSE. There's no follow through there yet. Are there going to be legal challenges to the SEC's actions? No one's sure. So what the people are seeing is there's going to be follow through. Are these going to be reforms that are going to fall through to the logical end, which will see the market then go up because the market will be better for it? But if the reforms do not follow through, if there's some kind of halfway house and we're still left where we are, then there's no difference. I think that's what's worrying investors.